welcome to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, tgstore.co.uk, the home of Gore Bikewear, Gore Running Wear and Aquasphere Wetsuits. You can get 10% off with the code Oxygenaddict10, and you can win a Gore bike or a Gore run jacket at tgstore.co.uk/Oxygenaddict. We're also brought to you by Team Oxygen Addict, which offers event-specific training plans, coaching guidance from Coach Rob Wilby, and supportive teammates in a private Facebook group. And finally, precisionhydration.com, leaders in triathlete sweat testing and hydration with multi-strength electrolytes that match how you sweat. You can get 15% off with the code Oxygenaddict15. Now, you might have noticed you haven't heard Rob's voice yet. That's because he's actually away this week and we couldn't quite find a gap that would work between my stupid shift pattern this week and his time zone. So I'm flying solo, but thankfully I've got a few of you listeners to help me through. And there's quite a bit actually in this week's show. I'll bring you the results from Roth, which you probably already know by now, but we'll go over those again. We'll also hear how some of our listeners got on. I myself was at Long Course Weekend in Wales, so I'll tell you a little bit about that. We've got a brilliant interview with former GB in England hockey player Natalie Seymour, who's now racing in the pro ranks. And we've got the answers to your questions about hydration from the guys at Precision Hydration. There's loads more as well. They're also running a competition because it is, if you're racing it, you'll know by this, it is Ironman UK week. So there's a special Precision Hydration competition. So listen out for that a little bit later on. But first of all, let's go through some results.
You're listening to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast with tgstore.co.uk, the home of Gore Bikewear, Gore Running Wear and Aquasphere Wetsuits. tgstore.co.uk is a family-run business of running and cyclists. They use the products you buy.
Don't forget, you can always get 10% off with the code Oxygenaddict10. Well, I reckon there probably is... There's two choices, but it's definitely Germany. So let's start at Challenge Roth, where there was all that talk, wasn't there, beforehand, that Daniela Riff was going to go for Chrissie Wellington's record. She didn't manage to actually get it, and I think it was pretty clear by about 10k on the run that she was going to fall short, but still a cracking race. Obviously, it was a new course there this year, so new run course. And in the end, Daniela Riff did get the win by a clear 11-minute margin over Laura Siddall, with Lisa Roberts in third. So Riff took the win in 8 hours and 40. So Chrissie's record, 20-odd minutes short of that. Laura Siddall, fantastic result, second in 8:51. And then Lisa Roberts came over third in 8:57. Got to give a massive shout out to Jane Hansom, who is in 6th place overall. Fantastic result. 9 hours 33, female 45 to 49 age group, so the first age grouper. Absolutely brilliant race from Jane. She was fastest in her category by 1 hour and 20 minutes. It's amazing. And I know that she works ridiculously hard. She's got a crazy job as well, so to do that, and with everything else going on in her life, that is absolutely wow. Superb pat on the back for Jane there. In the men's race, that was cracking too. Bart Aeronaut got the win there in 7:59. Fantastic second again for Joe Skipper in 8:03, and then Maurice Clavel of Germany in 8:04.
Hi Helen and Rob, this is Paul Martin from Mersey Tri Club. It's my fifth season racing in triathlon, and it's my third year racing long course and third year racing at Challenge Roth. Roth was introduced to me by a couple of coaches at the club who had raced here multiple times, and having seen a few pictures, knew I had to come, and it was the place I wanted to do my first long course race, and it's never disappointed. The town itself is only small. I think it's a population of 20,000, but for this weekend you get 7,000 athletes from 80 different countries with 7,000 volunteers, making sure the race runs to plan. And yeah, 260,000 spectators around the course. It's pretty special and really does give a festival atmosphere. We arrive on the Thursday night. There's an alcohol-free party where the pros tend to go dressed along in their lederhosen. The Friday is a pasta party, which is always great. And then Sunday, race day. So really warm this year, water at 23 degrees, obviously wetsuit race, but it was warm. It's always amazing to see the crowds on the bridge, hot air balloons, and it's a great atmosphere when the cannon goes. It's a out and back sort of course, under a bridge, turn around and come back, and then you're out onto the bike. I think the bike, people realise now, is a rolling course. I know it's known for being fast, but there's 1,600 metres of elevation. Aid stations are every 20 kilometres apart, so you never have to worry about running out of water or nutrition. The scenery is generally rolling either through sort of pine forests, small towns, and otherwise sort of rolling fields of wheat. It's fairly scenic. And then you hit the run course. Now, the run course had changed this year. It used to be a very flat course along the canal, no loops. It's sort of quite lonely, and you just hit certain little villages where there'd be some spectators. This year they've made it into two 21k loops, and you loop back through Roth 4 times. So great for spectators and great for sort of controlling the event and security. But for the athletes, it was tough. They've gone from about 100 metres of elevation difference to 260, and people found it hard. And then obviously you finish in an amazing stadium that's built temporarily for the race. You run in along the carpet to a wall of noise, and it's all live streamed, so friends and family can watch back home. This year for me, my first year I'd done an 11:02. Last year a 10:15, so I was hunting down a sub 10, and unfortunately just didn't quite have it on the day. I finished up with a 10:09, so it gives me another excuse to come back.
This is George Bright from Clapham Chasers Triathlon Club in London. It was my second full distance race after I did Sweden last year. I ended up entering actually before I did Sweden, just because loads of people said Roth was really cool. So I'd kind of just already jumped straight in at that point. The atmosphere on the day was absolutely incredible, especially on the bike. The support in certain areas, not just Solar Hill, but elsewhere on the course, was just phenomenal. The swim, for me, is kind of the swim. I'm not a great swimmer, so that was just kind of standard for me, but the bike course was incredible. The run course was a bit of a mixed bag, really. There were a lot of bits through the town and on the far west end of the course that were really nice, but there was some long stretches where it actually wasn't a great surface to be running on. There was no support. It was just a long uphills or downhill on the way back drag in quite dusty terrain, which wasn't actually the greatest. But other than that, it was pretty quick up until the point that I tweaked my hamstring, and then it wasn't quick anymore. It just hurt. In terms of performance, I picked up a small injury, so I didn't do particularly well, but I'm really glad that I finished, and the arena finish, again, was just amazing. Just an amazing feeling. There were so many people there. It was awesome. As much as I'd like to say I'd go back and race it again, I don't think that's kind of what I'm aiming for at the moment. It probably doesn't fit in with my plans for next year, and towards kind of working towards the top of my age group, maybe looking at Kona qualification. But I would definitely recommend it as a race. I would give it a solid kind of 8 out of 10, I think.
Let's stay in Germany then, because there was also another massive race going on, Ironman Frankfurt and the European Championships, where this was like swift running, right? 5 of the top 10 men all ran under 250 off the bike, which is pretty impressive. And Sebi Kienle, who took the win, did a 4:02 bike, followed by a 2:45 run. So he's kind of, isn't he, saying, look at me, I'm here. Andy Burcherer was second, also of Germany. He did a 2:49 and a 4:04 bike. So Kienle took the win in 7:41, which was the 4th fastest Ironman branded time in history. Andy Bircher was second in 7:46, and then Patrick Nielsen was third in 7:50, and he ran a 2:40. So really, really swift running over at Ironman Frankfurt. In the women's race, Sarah Crowley took the win from Australia, ahead of Lucy Charles, who had been leading for a massive, massive chunk, and again making a real statement and super impressive performance in the run-up to Kona. She's already won Ironman Lanzarote this year, so second place at the European Championships. Blinking impressive. So Sarah Crowley wins in 8:47, Lucy Charles second in 8:51, and then Alexandra Tondeur, she did the fastest run of the day in 3:04 to come in third. And shout out here for Ali Rowett, the GB age grouper in the 35 to 39 category now. She is so super consistent, and this year she was 8th overall. She finished ahead of Anja Berenek of Germany. She finished in 9:20 thanks to a 1:04 swim, a 4:53 bike, and a 3:16 run. So well done, Ali Rowett. And then let's move on to South Wales, because that's where I was this weekend. The long course Wales weekend in Tenby. If you haven't been there, honestly, go and check it out. I just had such a ball. I was actually there with Raceforce as a race buddy, so I was supporting some women there for the women's weekend at the long course weekend, and that alone was superb. It was brilliant seeing the women I was working with reach their goals. That was fantastic. I loved it. But the whole atmosphere in Tenby was ace. And I'd say, oh, this is great. And, friends have said, just wait for Ironman Wales, because it's literally going to blow your mind. So the concept is of long course weekend that they put on a swim on the Friday. So you can either do a half distance or a full distance, then the bike on the Saturday and a run on the Sunday. And I decided to have a chat with one of the participants at the end. We were sitting in the massage queue to hear his thoughts about the whole thing. So we're sitting in the Tenby sunshine, and I'm with Chris Woods. Chris, which tri club are you in?
I'm from Absolute Tri Nottingham.
Okay. So Chris, you have a yellow sticker on. So what have you just done this weekend?
So I've just finished the long course weekend, full distance. So it's a 2.4 mile swim in Tenby Bay on Friday night. The 112 mile bike on the Saturday, super hilly, and then a ridiculous marathon around Tenby and Pembroke and the south coast.
And how have you found it? Because you've done an Ironman before, so how does it compare to an Ironman which you do all in one day?
Well, I've done 3 Ironman before, and I think that overall the gaps between the swim and the bike ride were really appreciated. It was my first sea swim, so I really want to get the salt out my mouth and just recover a bit, and then it gave me the opportunity to enjoy the bike, which happened to be on my birthday. And then I was worried about the run, having had a night and a few hours to stiffen up my legs, and I had a massage here yesterday, and that I think improved the situation a bit. I got up and used my roller this morning, and I was feeling okay, but I have to say I don't think I'll do a race with a gap in it again, because my legs are battered.
I didn't do the full, right? I did the full bike, and then I've done a half marathon today, and my legs are screwed. So, and I really did notice. You just notice the difference, don't you? You feel them tightening up.
You really do. You feel them tightening up, kind of as you're walking to the start line. You think, I'm used to arriving at the start of a marathon in bad condition because I've just got off my bike, but I'm not used to arriving at it in bad condition when everything's gone a bit rigor.
And how did you find the bike yesterday? Because obviously that's pretty much the Ironman Wales bike course, which is it's known to be one of the hardest. How was it for you? Did you do it on road or TT?
I only do a road bike, actually. I've never had a TT bike. I found that I don't know. Yes, it's hillier. I've done Bolton before, and it's hillier than Bolton. But I think the main difference between the two is that at Bolton you can't carry any of your speed into any of the uphills, because you go down a lovely hill and you get to the end and there's a T-junction. You have to stop dead and turn left and go up the same amount of rise again. So at least here you could carry some of the speed up the start of the hill, which was quite nice. I thought that the hill at St Bride's, where the King and Queen of the Mountain was, I thought the King and Mountain bit was over very quickly.
Yeah, but then it carries on.
And then it carried on for another mile. And so, you know, having gone round the whole thing once, I wasn't desperate to go round it again, but it was that lure of 4 medals for 3 events that got me all sorted.
And what had made you enter it in the first place? Why did you pick this instead of perhaps, I don't know, doing Bolton or doing Outlaw again?
Just a different sort of challenge, really. So I've run marathons separately, I've done long swims separately, and I've done sportive rides separately, so it seemed like a good idea to try and combine all 3.
And just describe what the atmosphere has been like over the past 3 days.
Well, the atmosphere on the beach was just electric. And when we were standing in the pen waiting to go through the arch, you look behind you and the whole of Tenby and all of its visitors seem to be sprawled all over the beach and the cliffs and the steps, and that's in a fantastic atmosphere. And I got out all right out of the water and ran up the beach, and I might have waved my arms around a bit to encourage people to scream and shout a bit. So they were gracious in their shouting for me, which was very nice. I thought the bike yesterday had hot spots of really good support, but it's a long way. So you know, it was pretty in the first 35 miles. It was grueling in the 2 loops, but I thought that actually it was quite a nice course, very hard. The atmosphere on the run today, every time you've gone through a village, there's been people handing water out. You come into a town, there's a makeshift feed station, all the kids in the village handing sweets out. And of course you come in, once you've got over that last brutal, unkind hill into Tenby, you start running down that chute. I don't know, I think I was probably doing about a 4-minute mile by the end of it. I was about a foot off the ground and running really nicely. It was the best I'd run all day. The crowds just carry you straight over the line, you don't feel anything. It's perfect. And
one unique thing that I noticed, so doing the half marathon today, we pretty much cheered you all on when you were coming through Pembroke at the start. Did you notice that, or were you too far ahead? Or?
Oh no, I was behind. In fact, I was just coming into Pembroke when I heard the cheers and everything go. So it set off. So I aimed to do a 2-hour, 10-minute half marathon because I knew the second half was harder. So I just wanted to take it really easy for the first half. And I did it exactly how I wanted to do it, but I hadn't banked for no clouds and bright sunshine.
And finally, would you recommend it to others?
I'd recommend it to anyone stupid enough to do it, but there seems to be an awful lot of people that are that silly, so yeah, of course, go for it. Get it done. Get 4 medals for 3 events. What could be better?
In terms of the actual winners down in Tenby, so the long course weekend itself, so to be considered for that you had to do long distance on all 3 days. So it was won by Marcus Hultgren in a total time of 9:15. Richard Gardner was second in 9:34 and Philip Wilson was third in 9:42. That was on the men's side. Then on the women's side, absolutely brilliant. I had fish and chips with her after the swim on the Friday. Paris Edwards took out the win, and her total time was 10:03. Jill Cliff was second in 10:49, and Rebecca Bennett in 10:50 took third. And a shout out as well to Kelly Stokes, because saw her flying past me on the bike, and then on the run on the Sunday I was actually only doing the half marathon, and myself and Lucy Gossage ran past Kelly along with Lauren Bradshaw, and we had to give her a few shouts of encouragement, because we were cheating basically doing the half marathon. I mean, my legs were sore on the Sunday morning. Kelly and everyone else who did the whole long course, theirs must have been absolutely burning from that bike, because my goodness, it is hilly. It is 2,600 metres or something of climbing, and every time that you're just riding along, and then another hill. It's just hill after hill after hill. And then the run on the Sunday, it's not the same course as Ironman Wales. It's different. So if you do the marathon on the Sunday, you start in Tenby and you basically run to Pembroke and then back to Tenby. For the half marathon, you start in Pembroke, so you get a coach or you get your own way out to Pembroke. And then it's really, really cool because you stand almost like a guard of honour for the runners coming past, the marathon runners. So you're sort of staggered in a start. So we had the same when the 10K started a little bit down the road. They were all cheering us on as we passed through the 10K point, the 11K point for our half marathon, and they hadn't quite started their run. So it's just such a brilliant atmosphere. And again, Tenby really, really welcomes all the athletes. And yeah, it's great to have the likes of Paris Edwards down there and Lucy Gossage there, who, Lucy very much sees it as a fun weekend of training. So she would have done the full swim and the full bike and then the half marathon because she's got Ironman UK coming up this weekend. But it's just such a good atmosphere, and the Cambridge Tri gang were really cool to meet them and hang around with them as well. So well done to everybody who did long course weekend. And if you want it on your radar, honestly, stick it on it. They're going to do a long course weekend in Mallorca for the first time, and also Australia as well. So do go and check out Long Course Weekend. Such a cool format. So next up is going to be the interview of the week, brought to you by precisionhydration.com. They are running a special competition for you this week to mark Ironman UK week. They're actually offering a £100 personalised hydration bundle, and you can enter via the link in the show notes. So go and check that out. It's at oxygenaddict.com/podcast. And also, as we mentioned last week, that we asked you to send in some of your questions about hydration. So we'll come on to those after the interview of the week. So let's crack on then. This week's interview is with Natalie Seymour, who used to play hockey, used to be a very good hockey player. She was one of the reserves for the Olympics in London for Team GB. Didn't quite get any time on the pitch, but she's won world medals, European medals, loads of medals with England as well. So it's really cool to speak to Natalie and hear about her transition from a team sport and playing at that elite level to then giving triathlon a crack and giving it a go and actually thinking, you know what, I could be pretty good at this. So here it is, this week's interview with precisionhydration.com and Natalie Seymour. Natalie Seymour, hello and welcome to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. It's great to have you on.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and I've been listening to the podcast for a while and heard lots of really good interviews, so I'm looking forward to being on and chatting to you.
No pressure.
I know there's certainly a lot of incredible athletes to follow on, and not only that, but people seem to have fairly good banter and chat as well, so hopefully I won't disappoint.
Well, see, the thing is though, we haven't had a former, or maybe we have actually. Paris Edwards was quite a top hockey player, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was. I used to play hockey against her actually in the National League when she was playing for Leicester, and I remember when she first took up triathlon, and lots of the girls from Leicester, the England hockey girls, were saying how well she was doing in triathlon, and as I transferred across, Paris has certainly been someone who's really helped me out, and been out training with her and also given me lots of good advice and support. So I guess the hockey connection continues in many ways.
So what is it then about hockey players that make good triathletes? Because you and Paris are not alone. I think, didn't Kimberly Morrison play quite a lot at uni?
I definitely know Kim played, and also I think some fairly good age group athletes as well had played hockey. I know that Sam Baxter had played kind of international in his kind of younger years and stuff. I don't know really. I think maybe just having like a good engine and being able to kind of run a lot and things like that. I think it is very much a certain type of hockey player. Like I always remember like people just used to almost tell me to stop running at times, just because I was always one of the fittest, and I think that that really helped me in my hockey playing days. in terms of being kind of just having a good engine and being able to run a lot throughout the game. So I think often in triathlon you hear about the rowers who have got the real kind of mentality of endurance sport, and that they often transfer pretty well, but us hockey players aren't doing too badly, so it's quite good.
So for people who don't know, you got to the highest level in hockey, didn't you? Just give us a little brief resume of your hockey career.
So I played international hockey. I mean, I played hockey from when I was very young, and was part of the England setup from under 21 age, and then in 2009 we were ranked 11th in the world, but because of 2012 we were really fortunate to be able to go full time and start a centralised programme, which I just think changed hockey. And we went from being ranked 11th to being ranked 3rd in the world, and won a Commonwealth bronze and a World Cup bronze medal. And then from there, as you can see, just the benefits of being a full-time squad. I mean, the girls won the gold in Rio, which was just absolutely incredible off the back of the bronze in London 2012. And I think being a full-time athlete as a hockey player really taught me a lot about high performance sport and what it takes. And it's just a fantastic time to be part of hockey. And I kind of look back on my hockey career and feel really proud of everything that I achieved, but also think that it just taught me so much as an athlete, and I really kind of enjoyed that experience.
The sort of big disappointment for you, I guess, came at London 2012, didn't it? Because you were the reserve, but actually didn't end up playing at all.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a really, really tough experience, and it was also an amazing experience. And I think that kind of strange paradox, if you like, was really kind of difficult at the time. I mean, I was part of a squad of 30 who trained for 3 years leading up to 2012, and I was probably in a position that lots of people would have loved to have been in. But the thing that's different with the multi-sport events like the Olympics is that you have a squad of 18, but 16 get registered for the tournament. And so unless someone gets injured and then they can't play again, you would have to kind of sign that person out the tournament. Whereas in other tournaments like the World Cup, you can rotate the squad. So you kind of always know when you're going into that multi-sport event that if you are named as one of the reserves, then you're kind of very unlikely to play, but you still have a huge role, I guess, in that squad. And I was really fortunate to be part of lots of amazing experiences at 2012 in the village and at the opening ceremony and the closing ceremony and all those things. And it was wonderful for sport in our country, and that was amazing. And I think I'd be lying if I said that I didn't want to play. Of course I wanted to play. I'm an athlete, and that was something I'd worked towards for a long time. But at the same time, I felt really proud to be part of it, and really proud of the girls in the way that they managed the tournament and came away with a bronze medal. And I think it was an amazing experience.
I guess slightly bittersweet in that you're there, you're part of it, people would absolutely kill to be in that position, but you're kind of like, oh, so close. Yeah, just like, oh, just not that final little bit.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like I said, all athletes want to be playing, and when you're watching, you want to be, competing. But I really felt like I was in really good shape and I was playing really well. And if I had been called on, I would have been able to perform at that level. And I really try and hold on to that in lots of ways, because I think that was kind of testament to the journey that I went on in those 3 years as well. Like, I wasn't always at the start of kind of the centralised programme, and when I first got into the full-time training squad, I wasn't always getting picked for tournaments. And then I really worked my way through the squad and was getting picked regularly for Commonwealths, Europeans, World Cups. And I think obviously with the Olympics, it's such a bigger stage, and that's the thing that people see and remember. And bittersweet, I think, is a good way to kind of describe it. But I also try to remember all the kind of games and tournaments that I was a really big part of, and that's kind of was really great as well.
And was it after 2012 when you hadn't quite, managed to get any sort of time on the pitch that you thought, right, I want to have a go at something different?
I definitely knew I wanted to take a break from hockey. That experience in London was really tough, and I felt like, I just felt like I needed a break. And actually, I got accepted onto a clinical psychology doctorate, and that was full time, and it's quite competitive to get on because it was funded by the NHS, and you go for an interview process. And I actually ended up getting called off a reserve list for the interview really late, and I really remember going to the interview, and I went to the interview in the morning and then played against Australia in a practice game in the afternoon, and it was such a surreal kind of, I just didn't really know what was happening. And then when I got offered the place, I was like, well, I'll give it a go and I'll take a break and just see what happens, because if I'd have turned that down, I'm not sure I would have got back on it, and it was something that I've always wanted to do. So when I started working full time, it was then like, well, I want to stay fit, and I started running a lot and cycling to and from uni on kind of lecture days, and I was just enjoying doing that really. And I did a few 10k races and kind of got some okay times. So it just kind of went from there really. I remember really specifically going to watch my sister and my aunt and uncle do the London Triathlon, and just thinking, I have to do this one day. Like, it just was amazing, just the energy and all these people. Like, yeah, I just couldn't believe how amazing it looked, and I thought, oh, I'd love to give this a go one day, and it's just kind of built from there really. At the start, I think I was still it was a big shock to the system going from being a full-time athlete to working full-time. And there were times where I was still kind of toying with the idea of going back. But once I kind of started doing the triathlons, I was just really enjoying it. And it fitted a lot better with full-time work. So I thought I'd see what I could do.
Yeah, it's one of those things you would never have been able to do the doctorate and be a full-time hockey player, would you? Just like it would not have happened. No,
definitely. I mean, I was playing my club hockey down in Canterbury, even and I loved being part of that club, and I really didn't have any aspirations to go and play elsewhere, so I couldn't really commit to that. So, and then with the full-time program as it is, you're spending time on the pitch as a squad regularly, and that's really, really key to a team sport. And I just decided that actually, I'd done everything that I felt I wanted to do in hockey, and the doctorate, was something that I've always wanted to do as well, and it was great to do that kind of for my professional career. So it just seemed like the right time to kind of step away and retire. So that was the decision that I kind of made. Yeah, and I'm really pleased in a way, that I've kind of really taken the triathlon and gone for it, because I'd hate to think, oh, what if about it. So
I love it. It's such a great story. So you did your first triathlon before you had officially retired from hockey, right?
Yeah, I think I officially retired kind of about a year and a bit after the Olympics. I can't actually remember the exact date, but it was, I kind of spent a year out and did my first triathlon. And I was thinking about that the other day, because I think, it popped up on one of my kind of timelines, or these photos of me kind of doing my first triathlon, and I remember just trying to get on my bike in transition, and my first duathlon, I left my helmet on the second run, and all these kind of things that you just look back on now and think, oh, I was such an amateur. I kind of had some good physical capabilities from all the training that I'd done, but just so many kind of novice mistakes. But I think that's really important that you go through that that people hear that everyone kind of goes through that experience when they first start. Something that seems so simple, like taking your helmet off to run, suddenly becomes really hard.
I remember seeing a colleague had signed up for I think Sandman, and I remember just seeing a photo of him, and he still had his goggles around his neck on the bike.
That's awesome. That's amazing. What a race Sandman is as well.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely fab. So, Natalie, in the first one, that was the British Championships, right?
I'd actually done an Olympic distance before that in Chichester, but then I did the British Sprint Champs in Nottingham. That was like the first kind of one that I guess was against kind of some good athletes, and I remember in the briefing when they say to you that if you panicking you can roll over and put your arm up in the swim. And I hadn't kind of experienced a kind of mass start like that at a sprint champs. And I remember starting and me being me, putting myself right in the middle on the front row and wanting to get involved. And then about 50 metres in, I was like, I'm going to turn over and put my hand up. I'm going to turn over and put my hand up. It was awful. So I then swam sideways basically to get out of the melee because I was like, I'm properly
drowning.
Panicking. Yeah. So I ended up swimming this huge loop really far from all the boys, and got out in what felt like a really terrible time considering the times I was doing in the pool, and then rode like an absolute nutter because I was so angry with myself for getting panicked. I just chased all day and chased on the run, and it ended up I think coming third in my age group or something. And but I do really distinctly remember thinking I just want to get out in the first bit of the swim.
That is brilliant. And now look at you, sort of on the verge of sort of 70.3 worlds as a pro. Amazing. So what did your hockey teammates think when you were like, yeah, I'm gonna be doing triathlon now?
I think most of them would probably not be surprised. I just always have been known to, we do a lot of fitness testing, and in terms of the endurance side of the sport and the endurance testing, I was always one of the fittest. And I think, they're just also they know that it sounds a bit kind of geeky but I think it's quite common in triathlon. I actually love training. I just love trying to improve and trying to push myself and seeing what I can do physically and seeing what I can do technically, and that for me is as big a part of sport, any sport that I'm playing, as anything. And I think that triathlon really allows you to do that, and it's it is one of those sports where I feel like at the moment I'm continually progressing and learning and developing, and that's really good. So I think most of them would probably not be that surprised that I'd done something like triathlon, where it is about what you can do kind of and how far you can push yourself physically.
So after a hard training day, say go back to 2011 or something, right? And you've all had a big day, and you probably would have been like, oh, I'm just going to go for a little jog, 20 minutes, just get some thoughts in my head. Does anyone else want to come? No, Natalie, no.
I'm not sure about that. Most of the time I was pretty tired after big training days at hockey, I think, but I would tend to be the one who wouldn't whinge when we had to do running sessions at the end of a match or after a really tough 2-hour pitch session. We used to then have to do these 10 second on, 10 second off running sessions when you were already kind of dead on your feet, or if we had physical forfeits for making mistakes or kind of technical or tactical errors. I just kind of got my head down and got on with it, whereas I think some people might have expressed their frustrations.
Nice way of putting it.
A little bit more, potentially. I think I just got that kind of mindset where I just get my head down and get through it, and I think that can be really beneficial in lots of ways at the end or even during triathlons. It is really about how you manage and deal with fatigue in lots of ways, I think.
And that must also have been massive, and perhaps, you know, helped you make such progress pretty quickly in triathlon, because I guess you've got that mentality of always wanting to improve and always working on the little things, and never, as you just said, you know, you're always happy to sort of continue and just carry on.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've had a lot of really good support and advice, you know, from lots of people who do triathlons, and from my coach, Andy Bullock, and, you know, all the other triathletes out there. And I think that really helps. I remember really early on, almost in some ways being frustrated that I was working, because I think that there's been a lot of times where I've been like, I felt and believed that I could get to say where I am now and also beyond, and where I want to be. And I've had to kind of really make sure that I don't try and get there too quickly. And I think that that's been really beneficial, even though at times I probably found it frustrating. I mean, for the first 3 years I was completing a doctorate, and and you're on placements as well, so it really is a kind of full-time commitment. And I was often thinking, oh, you know, what am I trying to do here? Am I trying to do too much? But as time's gone on, and, you know, I've gone from working full-time, and then I was really fortunate I've been able to drop down to 3 days more recently, over the last year, and really seen the benefits of that. And that's really given me a lot of confidence, because I think, yeah, like you say, like I know what it takes to keep improving and developing, and what it's like in that kind of more elite performance driven environment. And that really helps me, because when I have dropped down days, I've, you know, just been able to rest really a bit more and get quality, and it's really made a big difference to my performance. And that's given me a lot of confidence, because I can only build on that now, and hopefully kind of slowly work less again over the next kind of 6 months, to then be able to push on again.
Did you, when you started your doctorate, I guess you took up triathlon as more of like a fitness and a fun thing, or in the back of your mind was there a thing thinking, might go, yeah, gonna go for it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I think once I realised that I think I could be quite good at it, I think that was that's the thing that really kind of switches in my mind. And I just think I wouldn't want to be sitting there thinking, what if I'd have really given it a shot? And that's why, you know, more recently I've decided again to commit to it more by not working so much, because again I was like, I've got a real opportunity here, and I'd hate to think in like 3 or 4 years time, or I wish I'd have gone for it. So I just think whilst I can go for it, I'm gonna do that.
So yeah. Was there one race in particular as an age grouper that you then thought, I'm going to see if I can get a pro card?
My first 70.3 was at Exmoor, and
was that 2015?
Yeah, and I was really fortunate in that it was an age group only race, and I won it. And I mean, that course is epic. It was just brilliant.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I mean, I loved it. I mean, it's probably a bit like Marmite. I'm sure some people absolutely hate it. And at that point, I really thought, you know, this is my first one, and I like, you know, felt like I'd actually done a pretty good job on it. And I think at that point I was like, this is something that I really think if I can commit to it, then I could do really well. And that was the time that I was like, I want to get my pro card. And yeah, I'm really glad I did. I'm really glad I took that step, because every year it's given me something else to kind of build on, work towards. And I think that that's really important. I always want to be trying to compete against the best, and that's where I want to be. And I think I'm making good steps towards that as like through the years.
I like that you'd said that 2016 was about learning, and then 2017 is more about competing.
Yeah.
Just tell us a bit about that.
Well, I think I knew that I was still in some ways. So I didn't start working part-time till May last year. So right through the winter I was working 5 days a week and commuting into London and trying to fit in, probably now looking back, too much training.
Yeah.
But, at the time it was kind of, I need to be doing this to try. And actually, going into your first pro field, it's a very different experience to being in an age group field. Sometimes there's a lot less athletes. It's a very different environment. And I really felt like I needed to learn about that. I'd also only done 2 70.3 races before 2016. Sorry. So again, I think I still had so much to learn just about racing. And I decided that I needed to kind of almost accept that position to perform better. And in a way, like, it took me for the first few races just to get into the season. And then, so I did Mallorca in that horrendous weather where it was just awful, and me and my other half ended up getting a stomach bug while we were away. So it was just one of those days where I spent like the end of the race and then the whole 24 hours after just being sick. That my other half Pete had it 2 days before the race. It was just one of those experiences that we were like, what are we doing? This is like the worst. And similarly in Staffordshire in 2016, I think I was just fatigued. And it wasn't until in May I went to 3 days a week, and then by Dublin and Weymouth, I think all that kind of hard work was suddenly almost allowed to kind of show, because I was just able to balance so much better with work, and my performances from that point really improved. Like, I did some 10Ks and I was running quicker than ever, and I really started to believe that I could compete going into those races, and that was kind of a really nice feeling going into those.
Do you miss the team environment of hockey?
I mean, yes and no. I think it is great being part of a team, and actually even in triathlon, like, I spend a lot of time training with others and feeling kind of almost part of a team in some ways. And when I'm at races, like Pete and my mum and my family and my coach, I mean, everyone just gets around me, and so you still get that same kind of feeling. I think there's other sides of being in a team environment where it's about like the whole team coming together and performing, whereas I guess what I know with triathlon is this is everything I've done up to the point where I get on the start line, and it's like I know I've done everything I can, and I know I'm stepping on that line and just going to give it my all on the day. But it's very objective, and that's different to a game, and I quite like that, because you can only then do what you can do on the day based on the work you've put in. And I've been, touch wood, very fortunate that when I step on the line, I know the work I've done, and I feel confident in that work, and I felt in very good shape going into the races, and then it's just about going out there and just enjoying it really, and just showing all that hard work and just giving everything. And that's like I really love about the sport, and I think that's very different to a more game-based sport, I guess.
You mentioned just before about the sprint race in Nottingham and having to just freaking out in the swim. Had you done much swimming, or had you been a swimmer as a youngster, or was it something that you have really, really, really had to work at?
So I swam till I was about 11 or 12 as a youngster. And I kind of got to that point where I was swimming about 3 times a week, and would either have then had to go to kind of, when I got to that age, it was either a case of swimming kind of in the mornings and evenings to start really stepping up, or, and then I found kind of team sports at secondary school and ended up kind of taking more of that route. So as a kid, I did everything. I just played as many sports as I can, and that's very much been in my family. We've all always, if we're not playing sport, we're watching sport, or it's just. And so when I came back to swimming, I was really fortunate that I had that kind of background from when I was younger. having said that, I really feel like this year the biggest difference has been that I spent a lot of time in the pool over the winter and worked really hard at just, I mean, I say I spent a lot of time in the water, but actually a lot of it's just been steady work and just being in the water. And there's something about swimming, it just seems that frequency is so important. So it's not like I'm doing any extra hard work necessarily. I was doing all the key kind of sessions in terms of, you know, the speed and the threshold, but just spending more time in the water, just kind of steady, repetitive. And that now means that when I'm racing, I feel a lot more confident in my swim ability, but I'm also like closer to the front of the race, closer to where I want to be, and I feel like I'm in the race, which is a really good feeling, I think. And it has been something that I still feel like I'm plugging away at.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? You can always plug away at it, and I guess once you get to that point that you feel you're coming out of the water and you're in the race, then it's almost like a completely different mentality, rather than thinking, oh God, how far back am I?
Yeah, definitely.
And then what about, so in 2015, right, you went to the World Championship, 70.3 Worlds, as an age grouper, and now you're on the verge of going to Chattanooga as a pro. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I want to now see what I can do, and I think again it will probably be a case of just getting used to that big championship race and just going out there and experiencing it. But you know, I know that over the next kind of few months that's really going to be at the forefront of my mind in terms of having kind of the goal and having the worlds in my mind is really, really good motivation to just keep working and just keep touch with the consistency, because I think that's been the biggest thing, really. The great thing is just having another winter behind me. It's just shown me what that time can do, and that accumulation of work, really. And you can't really rush that. You can't speed it up. I haven't found a way to speed it up, really. I've just learned to be a bit more patient and realise that actually it does really make a difference.
It's exciting. I mean, I guess you can't think too far ahead, but even, you know, give yourself another sort of year or two, and then you think again, if you're still learning all the time, progressing all the time, then it's like, wow, well, where can you be in another couple of years?
Yeah, definitely it is. That is the exciting bit. I think that's the thing that kind of keeps me motivated. And I mean, also at the moment, I just think like the British women like long course, it's just a really exciting time to be involved, because there's so many athletes, and I think, you know, everyone is pushing each other to be better, and it's just so inspiring to see like how well we're doing in the context of long course triathlon. And I think that can only, you know, push us all to be better. And I think it is an exciting time to be in the sport. I think the sport's growing and evolving, and I think that's, you know, also really motivating.
Is it a bit weird, Natalie, thinking back to, you know, your first triathlon and comparing where you are now? It's amazing. It is quite an incredible few years that you've got under your belt now.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was reflecting on it at the start of our conversation about thinking about all the mistakes I made, and probably not realising, I don't think I realised how much I still had to improve on in some ways. I remember like going out on kind of my first kind of club runs on the bike and thinking, you know, I'm pretty fit. Like, I've been training full time, I've been in the gym, I can run well. And then like 3 hours was so far and so hard. And these people who, I was like, how are you cycling so fast? And I feel like I'm going to blow up after 10 minutes. And I really specifically remember a ride where I went out with my other half, Pete, and some other people from the club. And he was like, you'll be fine. Like, you'll be absolutely fine. And they were all kind of, had raced Ironmans and a fairly strong group of cyclists. And I spent the first 40 minutes yo-yoing off the back of the group. and we'd got out to kind of Egham from southwest London, so not very far, and I was like, I've got to go home, I can't do this. And then I spent the next kind of 3 or 4 months like doing a lot of cycling on my own on these Sundays, just trying to work out how, because it's just kind of getting to know what you can do in that. And then came back to the group kind of 4 or 5 months later, and they were like, what have you done? And I think that's the thing, is like I'm very competitive with myself, and if I can't do something, then I want to find a way to be able to get to a point where I can. And I think that's when you kind of have that, or know that you can do that, that's what I've tried to do over the years, and I think it's really starting to show. And I've had to learn to be patient at times, and I think I probably wanted more earlier, and but I think being patient and just really sticking with it and being consistent is really starting to show now. And I think, like you said, I think it's exciting, because that makes me think, well, where can I be in a couple of years' time if I continue to develop like I am? And it's really exciting.
I love it. And you will always have your psychology and your doctorate and your work as a clinical psychologist to, I don't know, complement or go back to if you were to go completely full-time.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm, I think when I first started doing it, I was like, oh, I really don't want to do this, but actually sticking with it and getting into it, and I really did start to enjoy it. I think it's really good to have that and to have experienced that. And although I do always joke with kind of my friends and family, in that I only managed kind of full-time work for 3 years, and then was like, oh, I need to be going back to being an athlete again. So I do get a bit of stick for my inability to work full-time like everyone else. So yeah, but no, it's really important to have, I think I really learned that through and was really fortunate in a way that you get a lot of support as an athlete when you're kind of lottery funded, and through the English Institute of Sport, getting kind of lifestyle advice and advice about always thinking about the future, because you can't do this forever. And I think it's I feel really fortunate that when I was playing hockey, I did a master's, and I tried to always work a little bit alongside my hockey, and that's really good, I think, for kind of mentally keeping you fresh, if you like, in a way, and not becoming too one-dimensional in terms of focusing just solely on one thing. And I think that's also then given me a really good platform to do the doctorate and have something to fall back on and work in as and when I need to and I'm ready to, I guess.
Love it. And just before we go, Natalie, I know that you said earlier you've got a slightly different team around you. It's not a hockey team, but you've got loads of support around you, and you've got a lot of sponsors who've helped you out as well. So if you want to give a little shout out to them, feel free.
It is such a team endeavour, and I said that Andy Bullock, I've been working with him right from when I first started triathlon, and he has just been helping me develop brilliantly as a coach, and it's been great to be able to work with iRide, who are kind of a local distributor of the Argon 119 and Falcon wheels, and lots of British pros at the moment working with Skechers Performance in terms of run shoes. I mean, you can see they really are a great run shoe when you've got the likes of David McNamee in them and Lucy Charles last week and stuff, and I think it's been, I'm really fortunate. And the nice thing about I guess the companies that I've worked with, which I really hope to continue to do, and it's been a development as I've developed as well. So I've been working with Orca from when I turned pro, and they've supported me through, and it's gone from as an ambassador role, and then more recently I did a photo shoot with them, and it's just a really again feeling part of a team, and coming from a team background, that's really important to me. And I've really enjoyed building those relationships, and feel really fortunate that people have believed in me when my results weren't up there at the start. But hopefully as we progress, they'll get more exposure out of them. So,
Natalie, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Helen. It's been really good to catch up. I've really enjoyed chatting about it, and I feel quite excited and motivated going into the next couple of weeks.
Great to chat to Natalie, and she actually came sixth at the weekend. She was racing at Ironman 70.3 Jönköping in Sweden. So yeah, well done, Natalie, for that one. I should also mention as well that Kimberly Morrison took third there, and Sarah Lewis as well, who's had a really crappy year with bike crashes and loads. Brilliant result. Fourth for Sarah Lewis as well. So Lisa Hurtaler of Austria took the win in 4:17 ahead of Camilla Pedersen. Kimberly Morrison third, Sarah Lewis fourth, Asa Lundstrom fifth, and then Natalie Seymour sixth. So as I mentioned before that interview, that last week we asked for your questions about hydration and precision hydration. We're going to answer some of the questions that you sent in. So for this bit, I have actually got my friend to help me out, and then it's not just my voice being really, really, really boring. So here you go. Here is our little segment about questions with precisionhydration.com.
Okay, this question is from Steve in Scotland. Is there a DIY sweat test that I can do from home?
So unfortunately not. All of the DIY sweat tests that they've seen on the market are actually really prone to error and inaccuracy, and that's why they only offer their in-person test at their centres around the world. They do say as well that their online sweat test has genuine efficacy, as there's a strong correlation between how athletes perceive how much they sweat and how salty their sweat is in reality. And they know that because they've submitted their data to researchers at Sheffield Hallam University, and they're soon to submit a paper with those findings.
Okay, the second question is from Claire in Runcorn. PH keep mentioning sodium in relation to hydration, but what about the other electrolytes like potassium, calcium and magnesium?
Oh, great question. So your sweat only contains small amounts of potassium, calcium and magnesium. It's mostly made up of sodium and water. That's why it tastes salty and you get those white marks on your kit after a sweaty workout. Your sweat can contain from around 200 mg of sodium per litre up to 2,000 mg per litre, whereas it only contains up to about 150 mg of potassium per litre. So that means that coconut water, which is high in potassium but not sodium, isn't actually the miracle sports drink that many claim it is. There you go.
That's good because it's expensive anyway. Okay, from Dave in Liverpool. Can I mix electrolyte drinks like PH with my energy drinks?
So if by energy drink you mean Red Bull, then PH wouldn't advise that. But if you mean powder-based energy drink products like Carbo Pro, then yep, many athletes do mix those in with precision hydration in the same bottle. Most energy-focused mixes contain very little sodium, and really it just needs very thorough testing and training. Don't try it for your first time in an A race, obviously. But while it's possible, precision hydration generally advocate leaving your fluids for hydration and fueling your race through solid and semi-solid foods like bars and gels.
Okay, fourth question from Raj in Salford. If I eat less sodium, will I sweat less out during a race?
So how much sodium you lose in your sweat is driven largely by a genetic factor that controls the reabsorption of sodium chloride at the sweat gland. Although how much you lose can be somewhat influenced by diet, acclimatization to heat and severe dehydration. It's pretty much stable after infancy, so that's why you only need one sweat test with precision hydration. So the key is to understand your losses so that you can replace them accordingly.
Okay, the next question comes from Sam in Devon. Who's the saltiest sweater you've ever tested?
So precision hydration say that so Coach Rob was up there with the saltiest at over 1500 mg. And I think Andy or Dave from PH, they lose more like 1800 mg per litre. But the saltiest sweater, and this is excluding people diagnosed with cystic fibrosis who lose a lot of salt in their sweat. It was a man called Jack from Portland in Oregon who loses, get this, a staggering 2,272 mg per litre. They say that they helped solve his issues with cramp, and he then got a PB at Ironman Florida back in November. And don't forget, if you want a chance to win a personalised hydration bundle, special competition this week that we're running to mark Ironman UK week, go to the show notes, oxygenaddict.com/podcast, and check it out. Precision hydration, so £100 personalised hydration bundle. So it's in our show notes. So let's crack on with some news, because there's a few things to tell you about, and then we'll wrap up the podcast for this week, and next week we'll be back to normal with Rob as well, so there's a bit more banter going on, because it's a bit weird actually I'm sitting in my lounge and just with my computer for company and my recorder, and it's a little bit lonely, but never mind. So big news is that the inaugural Collins Cup is going to be held at Challenge Roth next year. That was announced over the weekend, so that's going to be pretty big, isn't it? And the Collins Cup, if you haven't heard about it, it's like the Ryder Cup of triathlon. So there'll be Team USA against Team Europe, and then an international team as well. They've got really cool captains. So Dave Scott and Karen Smyers are going to be the captains for the USA. Norman Stadler and Chrissy Wellington are the European captains. And then Craig Alexander, Simon Whitfield, Aaron Baker and Lisa Bentley are the international. There's going to have 12 pros, 6 men, 6 women for each team. And then an athlete from each team will go up against another in an individual race of 3, and then they'll get points for their team based on their performances. So that's just going to make it a whole load bigger, isn't it? Because I think there was a lot of talk about where it was going to be held. So actually to pin it down at Roth next year just adds an extra dimension to it, and it's probably going to be a noon start. And then age groupers and pros who aren't doing the Collins Cup will do the traditional Roth course at sort of a more normal time of 6:30 in the morning. So yeah, fantastic news there for the Collins Cup, which is going to be hosted at Challenge Roth next year. Moving on, and some other news to bring you, which I spotted earlier on, is that Ironman Wales this year is going to have extra slots for Kona. So they are going to have 65 in total, which is definitely more than normal. So if you are thinking you want to go there and give it a crack, it ain't exactly easy. Having been there this weekend, you will be in for a tough day on the bike and a tough day on the run as well. But it is meant to be one of the best supported races out there, and it is a stunning corner of the world. I've got family from that part of the world, and it was awesome being back down there. And I rode with my dad. I had a little ride with him before I came home, and he was pointing out like where he grew up and stuff. So it was pretty cool down there. So I'm really looking forward to heading back down in September for Ironman Wales. And I don't know if I'm all that excited about getting in the sea for the sea swim, but we're going to sort that one out. I didn't quite get into the sea swim for long course weekend, so I've still got to work on my sea swimming slightly. But hey ho, it's all good. Some other news to bring you is that I saw today Non Stanford. Get well soon, Non. Poor Non. She's another injury, so she's going to miss the next 3 WTS races because of a problem with her Achilles. Other things I saw is that, of course, Ironman UK is coming up this weekend in Bolton. I did it last year. Oh, great. I really, really loved it. Probably a bit too much. I think I loved it. Maybe it's one of those things that you look back on and you think, yeah, it was great. Yeah. Forgetting all the pain. But no, I genuinely, I did really enjoy it, and it's got some good crowd. So if you are racing this weekend, just remember you have done the hard work. So it is a celebration of everything you've put into getting to that start line this year. I would say do save something in your legs for the second lap of the bike and really just embrace all the crowds on the run. When I was running with Lucy Gossage at the weekend down in Tenby, she's going to be competing, and she said that she's really, really excited to race. And the bit I liked, we were talking a little bit about the course at Ironman UK, and she said, the run's great there, because basically there's a free mile on every lap. So according to Lucy, when you go through town, doesn't count. That is a freebie because of all the crowds and all the support that you will get. So her top tip is just really enjoy that bit through town and it's another mile knocked off without even having to think about it. Sadly, there is quite a steep hill just before and after that loop through town, so ignoring the hill, it's great. Before I go, thank you very much for all of your questions that you have sent through for Coach's Couch. We'll get to as many as we can over the next few weeks. One question that we have had through that I did want to go through is Coach Dylan got in touch from Australia. This was a bit random, appearing in the middle of our summer, because obviously it's winter down under, and he was asking about what to wear for his 4 a.m. runs in the winter. And I replied and I said, look, how cold are we talking? And he said it's around 1 to 3 degrees, maybe more like -2, and it's the wind that he hates the most, and he wants to obviously feel kind of warm and comfy but without feeling too heavy. So a few of you sent some suggestions in. I think buffs featured, so if it's chilly, buffs are always really good. Personally, I go for a thin long sleeve top, gloves definitely, but thin gloves, and then usually a gilet. Of course, I could tell you that TG Store do some amazing Gore running gilets, but yeah, gilets are pretty good because they give you a little bit of protection from the wind, but if you do get hot when you run, I get really, really hot, and if I put a big running jacket on, I tend to struggle a little bit. But gilets are a pretty good option to sort of be a halfway house, and then just go for some man tights. They do the trick. They're good. They keep the wind off. They keep you warm in the winter. So I think with those things, you should be sorted. And you know what? It'll soon be over. Winter will be soon out of the way for you in Australia. Right, well, thank you so much for listening this week. I know it's been a little bit different without Rob, but hopefully you've learnt a little bit about hydration, what it takes to go from an elite hockey player to a pro triathlete, and also just how awesome long course weekend in Wales really is. So yeah, go and check it out. It's brilliant. Cool. Happy training, happy racing. If you're doing Ironman UK, best of luck, and we will be back to normal next week. Bye.